Why not? Let's just learn more about today. Hello, everyone. This is Audrey Codner, and I welcome you to basically the first session of what I like to call the missing pieces of our business. So each and every month, we're going to kind of get together with a professional that does the business side. Like, yes, I can help, I can guide you, I can get you started. But my thing is, I want you to survive and I want you to last as long as possible. So for today, we actually are blessed, especially during tax time. We all know it's all kinds of crazy, with a tax professor. She's like, yes, that's giving a little bit of her time to kind of help us with that bookkeeping side of our business. So I would like to introduce to you Miss Phyllis Johnson. Phyllis, thank you so much for I want to say it, PKJ Consulting. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you get into this whole thing called bookkeeping?
Hello, everybody. My name is Phyllis Johnson. I am the owner of PKJ Consulting. I've been in business 9 years as of tomorrow, actually. So, yay. So, I started out doing bookkeeping, accounting for years in corporate America. Went to Pepperdine, moved over to Las Vegas, and just was working in corporate America, but always in the back of my mind wanted to always start my own company. My MBA is in entrepreneurship management, and I was doing consulting and taxes on the side for years. And one day I just decided to take the leap. My mother has sent me this kind of this like thing I wrote when I was like 8 years old, and it was like, oh, I want to help businesses, and like this whole little booklet that I wrote about what I wanted to do, and she sent it to me. And I had been talking about it, and I decided I was just going to rip the Band-Aid off and jump into it 9 years ago. And I gave myself 6 months to make it happen, or else I would go back to, regular job. And now it's 9 years. And yeah, so it's been an amazing journey, and I'm very blessed and happy to be here. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm so glad. Isn't it funny how parents will save all these things and we were just so enthralled as children, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, wow, I was pretty advanced as a kid. Never knew that was happening.
Yes. So now I save all my daughter's stuff. So if I need to send her something, remind her some
There
years
you
from
go.
now, but yes.
So before we go really deep dive, I mean, one of the questions, and Heidi is also here, she is a member of my group as well. And one of the things that someone actually said was, is the stuff that we're going to talk about translates not only in the US, but also in Canada, especially? Like, are these like really like the basic things that anyone should be listening to?
So I would say yes. So bookkeeping is bookkeeping pretty much all over the world. I actually do have clients in not only North America, but also South America and one in New Zealand. So the concepts are pretty much the same when it comes to bookkeeping. Now, tax laws are, of course, different per state, per country, per continent, per all of that stuff, but the concept of bookkeeping pretty same in every place.
Okay, thank you. Because some people are like, should I listen to this? I'm like, yes. Well, can you ask that question anyway? Not a problem. So I asked it. I was right. Here we go. So before we really dive deep, now business owners, brand spanking new to the game. What do you see as like the most common mistakes that we generally do? And I say we because I'm in year 4. I'm still learning. So, what are like some of the most common mistakes that you see, like for a lot of us small business people?
So when it comes to like the numbers, bookkeeping, accounting thing, it is not setting goals in advance and really not allowing yourself to be in the mindset of a business owner when you first start. A lot of times when you're starting a business, and we are all guilty of it, you're just trying to make some money and make some sales and just keep it alive. But even as you first start, you should immediately start saying, okay, how do I have this as a business? Should I need to open up a business bank account. How do I put money into that bank account? How am I going to keep track of, my expenses? How do I keep track of my income? Really getting yourself in the mindset, even from day one, because ultimately, the quicker you do that, the easier it is to grow your business, the easier it is for you to set business goals, the easier it is for you to then obtain certain, opportunities, grants, funds, loans, new clients, all those different things that are available to you if, you're doing it correctly from the start.
So when someone's getting like say a bookkeeper or accountant, like I know a lot of people are just like, all right, okay, I don't want to do the money part. I just want to focus on the content or, just to interact and do the networking. But when it comes down to a bookkeeper or accountant, that like the difference of the two is one. And then when they hire an accountant or a bookkeeper, do they feel like, okay, now I can completely step back and just let that person run with it? What are your feelings about it?
So as far as like the difference between bookkeeper, accountant, CPA, data entry person, they do different things, but also depending on the size of your business. The smaller your business, the less hands-on people that you need. So I would say, get an accountant who has bookkeeping tax experience. So like my company does a little bit of everything. We do bookkeeping, payroll, taxes, LLC setups and things of that nature because when you're a small business owner, you can't afford like a bookkeeper, accountant, a tax person, the marketing, the sale, it starts to get really expensive. So the difference is a bookkeeper is someone who's going to do the day-to-day transactions. They're going to record your information, help reconcile the books. The accountant's going to do more high-level stuff. So they're going to send you the financials. They're going to help you understand them and read them and make decisions. Tax person does your taxes. So you should find someone who kind of has experience in all of those avenues. Now, in terms of the second question, no, you should not just give everything to your numbers person and hands off. If you haven't heard, like over the years, you hear people getting these huge tax bills or ending up in jail for not paying the IRS, right? They don't name the accountant or the accounting company. Those people are not going to jail. They may get some type of fine or something like that, but the person who actually legally is responsible is the business owner. So as you hire someone that you trust, right? But the same way, if you hire a marketing person, you review their work. So if you hire a bookkeeper, the most important thing you want to do is hire someone where you should be meeting with them on a monthly or at least a quarterly basis to go over your information. That way, one, it keeps you accountable to making sure you're understanding your information because it's your business. It keeps you accountable that the bookkeeper is doing things correctly, right? So if they know you're going to have this meeting with them on a quarterly basis, their information should be up to date. They should be ready to have that conversation with you, help you to learn, help you to make your goals, all of those different things that you need to do as a business owner. So hire someone you trust, but don't just step off to the point where things can happen and, you're not understanding your own information for your business.
Yes, because I really feel that you want to be a part, it's your business. And it's just
Right.
like you said, it's your name. So all the work, even if it's just something simple as keeping track of the ins and outs of your business, you want to do the same with your students. Like, because we're tutors doesn't mean that, oh, okay, you just get someone professional and then you're done and you just focus on teaching. No, like you want to know the information because eventually something might come up and you're like, oh, but remember, you told me X, Y, and Z. And then you guys can have a conversation versus someone's just going ahead and just willy nilly saying stuff. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, that's good. And next thing you know, you're like, wait, what happened to the $50,000 that's in my account?
Right.
And it's gone.
Exactly.
So I know people are very eager and they really want to know like the whole process because some people already kind of started bookkeeping and they just want to get that reassurance that they're on the right line. And there's also some people that hasn't even started, like they're brand spanking new to the whole tutoring game all in itself. So I first saw you was on Scores, and you had a whole presentation about bookkeeping, and you were kind of going through like the whole thing. Can you kind of give us a little bit of the process of bookkeeping?
Sure. So I'm going to speak just for like those for the tutoring side because it depends on what type of business you have. So, for bookkeeping, the first thing, like I said, is really mindset, right? Understanding that you need to do it. The second thing is having your business bank account. So you want to have a business bank account and you want to start looking at the information. So even before you're making hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars, right? You want to get yourself to the goal of like, I need to look at this information so I understand it. You then want to look at your income. How much money am I bringing in? What are my goals? So am I tutoring 10 clients a month? Is it 50? How much am I making per client? Should I raise my prices? Should I lower my prices? I don't, depending on what type of tutoring business you have. What's my great season? Is it the summertime? So really the first thing is understanding your sales, your students, different type of revenue streams when it comes to tutoring, right? I mean, you have straight just regular tutoring, you have tutoring international people, you have tutoring different languages. I mean, there's so many different types and you need to figure out, what's the thing that is going to, what's my passion and what's generating the revenue. The other most important thing that people fail to do is understand their expenses, right? So even if you have a W-2 job, everyone knows exactly, oh, I get paid $100,000 a year, right? But what is actual take-home pay? Most people fail to understand that number and they're not looking at that information. So what are your expenses to run a business? Now, even with a tutoring business, there aren't that many expenses, but it can get costly, right? What are your software expenses? What are your supplies? How much is what are your computer costs? Do you have a Zoom light that makes you look a little better than, how you really actually look, especially during tax season, right? What are your internet costs? What are your utility costs? What's your backup? So I'm on this computer, but something may happen and there's literally a laptop right next to me that I can pop up and open quickly. So, those things cost money and you should be keeping track of them. And I mentioned the first thing was getting a business bank account because what happens is this, with the tutoring business, you can have something like Google, right? Or Dropbox or your internet expense. Well, that kind of can be also a personal expense. And so when it comes to doing taxes or really understanding your income and expenses, if you leave everything on your personal account, you don't really know how much money you're spending for your business. You don't know how much money you're really making for your business. So get a business account. Now, unless you are just really lucky, you're just making a lot of money instantaneously, the quickest way to fund your business account is to transfer money like a set amount from your personal to your business so that your business can cover the expenses until you're able to do so without having to transfer your money in there. So after that part, right, now you have your income, your expenses, you have what's called a profit and loss statement. That's your income minus expenses. So what is that every month? And here's the key. What do you expect it to be? So I keep talking about your goals because one person's net income could be $0. That could be their goal. Hey, I just want to bring in this money, spend this money, and I want to just have zero at the end of every month. That could be your goal, right? Your net income goal could be to make $10,000 a month. Did you make that goal? So what happens a lot of times, people are running their business and like, okay, I got money in my bank account, and they're just kind of muddling along. That's the worst thing that you can do because I don't know about all you guys who are watching, but at some point we all want to retire, right? And so you have to kind of be in that mindset of what is my goal every month to the point where I can start setting money aside for retirement, especially as entrepreneurs and business owners. You don't automatically have a retirement plan, right? So you have to kind of get yourself to the point where you're in that mindset of doing so. So I know I said a bunch of stuff, and that's why I say, getting a bookkeeper can kind of help you do some of those things, because if that's not your expertise, you can have someone keep track of the income, keep track of the expenses, give you your financial statements, your profit and loss, your balance sheet, your cash flow, and then you're meeting with that bookkeeper or accountant to kind of go over that information and review it versus having to do it. That way you can focus more on growing your business.
That's excellent. Now, there was one thing that when you said it, it triggered. I was like, the expenses. Sometimes we don't know, like, what is something that we can actually use as an expense with our business to kind of separate the two.
So that's a good question. So anything related to your business, right? So if I say, hey, Audrey, what do you have to run your business? Like, it's a must. You're going to tell me what those things are. right? Now, there's always those gray area things, utilities, home office expenses, all those become gray area. You need electricity to run your business, right? So of course, you're still funneling in the rest of your house. So if you have a dedicated office, right, any electricity, internet, you can write off a portion of that on your taxes. You can keep track of that. If you have a separate like Wi-Fi router, which is like something that I have, that's a tax write-off. If you buy supplies just for your home office, right? Like, so those anything in the background of you, so like this is like obviously a Zoom background, but any pictures, anything that Audrey, all those books, everything like that, right, to help you run your business. Education for your business, so you have a tutoring business, taking courses or classes on how to run your business, how to grow your business, how to tutor better, maybe taking classes on, maybe you want to tutor in Spanish, taking Spanish courses. Anything related that's going to help you grow your business is something that's a tax that you should be keeping track of. And then also having an expert who could say, no, that can't write that one off, or no, that's not an expense of your business. And yes, this one is, or yes, we could split that cost, because you do have a situation where certain things are a little bit of both, right? Like travel can be business and a little bit of personal, right? And knowing how to keep track of that and separate that properly is also important.
Yes, because I know some people would be like, we can write off all meals. And I'm like, as long as we just say the word business, then we can like completely write that off. Or, okay, I have a room in my house, but my mortgage is like $1,000. So we're just going to do the whole thousand, because sometimes I'll be on the phone walking from one room to the next. Trust
Right.
me, I hear so
And you
much.
can't. Those are the things that'll get you audited, right? So the things that get you audited the most: travel, meals, auto, and home office stuff. Because people tend to, if you have a business, you still got to pay your mortgage, right? If you don't have a business, you still have to drive your car. If you're still going to the Bahamas with or without the education, so you can't write off all those things illegally. And it doesn't, here's the thing, writing it all off at some point caps out anyway. So your home office expenses should only be the portion of what you're working in, where your desk is, where you actually come into the office. Yes, you may be sitting on the couch watching TV, talking to a client. That's great, but that's not off. That's not a tax write-off.
Okay.
Can I
So
ask a
uh,
question?
go
Sure.
ahead, Heidi.
So I was doing a little research online about this, and I read about there's a standard write-off. It's only like, I think it's $1,300 for your home office. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's like a
So
standard deduction. I thought it was only $1,300, and I'm like, wow, I use this room. I use a big basement room, which I tutor in person too. A big like classroom kind of in my basement. So do you know anything about that?
So there's two types. There's standard, like a flat fee, but there's also what most people do is a percentage, right? So if your home is 2,000 square feet and you use 10% of it as your home office, then yes. Now you're saying you use like this office in your basement. If you're using multiple places, what is the place that you really do all of your work from? Most people, if you have like a supply product business, you may have your supplies in your basement, and then maybe, you're working upstairs. But most people only have typically one real office that they're working in.
Yeah.
Because even if you're splitting your time 50-50, you can't write off both because you're splitting it 50-50. So you still only can write off that one
Oh,
portion of it.
interesting. Okay. Because I do all my Zoom calls from this room, but all my in-person tutoring I do in my basement. It used to be an old playroom. We
Right.
converted it with whiteboards, so it's a tutoring room. So I can't count
Right.
both of those?
Well, you can do your Zoom down in the basement. You're choosing not to, right? So that's it. So the thing is, like, you're right now where you're at, you're in your kitchen, but you're using your kitchen for other things. Where is that full dedicated
No,
office
this is an
space?
office. This is not a
Oh,
kitchen. We just put
right.
cabinets
So,
in it. It's an
right.
office.
So where is your 24 hours full dedicated office space? That's
Okay.
what they're, yeah.
Okay. And it's just the percentage of the square footage then.
Correct. It could be either or. So you have the standard. So when you're doing your taxes, the
Mhm.
tax person is going to allow, you have different options. You have a percentage, but then also you can also write off your actual and a percentage of that. So it really depends. That's why you want to make sure, especially if you are a business owner, you want to make sure you have someone who's an expert in small business taxes that's going to help you figure out which one's going to be the best for your situation.
Okay. Our utilities can be done the same way. You use the square footage
It can
of
either
your
or,
home.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Oh,
You're welcome.
yes. Thank you for that. Because trust me, there's a lot of people that are like, oh, okay, this is how much I pay for utilities. So I'm just going to put it in full.
Right.
And now we
And I mean,
know.
there's some utilities that you can write off in full. So that's why I said it really did everybody's situation is different. So
Different.
like if I ask you, Heidi and Jasmine, who's on mute, here's your situation and my situation, we're all going to have different situations. And that's why it's critical to understand, like to talk to a tax person. And I'm just kind of giving Heidi, like, here's some kind of advice because I would really have to have a real conversation and say, your situation is this, and this is what you can write off specific to your business. I always tell people to think of it like this. You're sitting in front of a real person. If you ever, God forbid, get audited, it's a real person, right? And if you're able to have a conversation that makes logical sense and back up and prove it, you should be fine. But if it doesn't make sense, like, oh, I wrote off my whole cell phone bill, but like your kids are on the bill and things of that nature, legally you can't do that, right? So, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Now, here was another question that was given to a person that wasn't here. Or maybe it might be you, Heidi, I'm not sure. What is the best way to charge, say, international students?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I
As
know,
far as
right?
like, sending invoices or
It's a
I think
combination.
I think I wrote that question, and now just today I have a mom texting you from Canada, and I don't know the best way, and that probably isn't a question for you as much as for Audrey, but I guess yeah, I don't know if I need anything from her as far as taxes go, but just in general, Audrey, what would you use to like I have PayPal, does that work? Can I use that in Canada or what should I do?
Yeah. Anyone that has, because PayPal is very international. I think there's only a couple of continents that does not use PayPal. PayPal,
Oh,
Stripe. So
right.
that we can talk about. So that's
Yeah,
not going to,
okay.
because I don't want to hold too much with Phyllis because
Right.
she's
But
got to get
does
back to
that
work.
is there anything with taxes that we need to be worried about how we charge people? Or what?
that's a very specific depends on question.
Right.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll
So
get
we,
into
okay.
that one. Okay.
Okay.
So now I understand what the question was. Okay. So all right. Now a couple things when it comes to the whole separation. We're talking about taxes. We're brand spanking new. So sole proprietor or sole versus LLC. Not so much to get too deep with what are the differences, but I know there is a difference, especially when it comes to taxes. What is your feedback on that when people are trying to make that decision?
There's no difference. So when it comes to taxes, there's 0% difference between sole prop and LLC. Because a sole prop is just someone who hasn't legalized their business, but when they file their taxes, it's still going to be what's on a Schedule C. The main difference for LLC and a sole prop is when you file your taxes, it's your social security number on your Schedule C. When you set up an LLC, it legally protects you from any liability. Now, I don't know as a tutor what kind of lawsuits will
Right.
happen, but like, oh, I didn't learn what I was supposed to learn, but you never know anymore. United States is kind of, whatever. So the difference with the LLC is you are able to get an EIN number. So when you're sending out like documents and things like that, you don't have your social security number on it. So you're able to have a separate situation. And one of the great things about it is as you want to grow your business, and you want to get grants, funds, loans, everything of that nature, you want to be able to provide separate documents to someone. And the only way to really do that is to have an actual business. So tax-wise, though, for an LLC versus sole prop, there isn't a difference unless you like an LLC S corp or LLC partnership or LLC, different or things of that nature. But for the most part, Schedule C is going to be the exact same.
Okay. And then especially for people like I know Heidi is doing tutoring within her home, that's kind of be, nice to have as an LLC because things can
Mhm.
happen. You can trip, maybe
Right.
like the weather
Yeah.
that
Well,
we're
yes.
having. So like any
Yes.
kind of like insurance. But if we're online, like, what are you gonna do? Told the kid that it was a -4 versus +10?
Right.
Like, no one
Right.
should be
Yes.
suing me for that.
Right. Like I always tell people, don't rush to get things that you don't need until you, and not so you need it. I mean, but like in the situation, yeah, you have someone come into your house, you should definitely have liability insurance because, home insurance and liability insurance with your LLC, because even though someone can sign off on something, if someone slips and falls in your house, they can sue you personally and they can sue your business, right? But online, it's not a must. It's just, what are your business goals?
Gotcha. Perfect. All right. So before we move on, so Jasmine, did you have any questions, or you just like chiming in? But if you do, please, this would be the perfect time to ask. Or is Jasmine just in? Because we're about to close up with services. Okay, just listening. All right, got you. Heidi, did you have any other additional questions?
Well, one, so I took, this is back in 1987 when I first went to college. I took an accounting class, and I remember like we'd figure out depreciation on all like things like computer. Well, back then we didn't have computers, but there was equipment in companies, and you would figure out depreciation and that could be deducted. Is that something we should be thinking about? Like I was thinking of computers, iPads. That's probably it. Is that a write-off we can take?
So any equipment over $2,500, yes. But nowadays there's not that many computers or anything that's over 2,500, but yes.
Oh, so depreciation only works on those things.
On the larger items that you're purchasing.
Okay. Okay. Um, let's see. I think, okay. I'm a math tutor, so and I like numbers and I like accounting. I kind of would like to try doing some of this on my own. And I'm wondering if you can recommend, like, those orange books that used to be out called Dummy's Guide to? Do you know what I'm talking about? Is there like, because it's been a long time since I took an accounting class, would you recommend a book like that that I could read myself easily? I know I could go online and learn, but I would rather have a book in my hand that I can make notes in, that I could learn to do this myself. I know I should probably get someone, but I kind of want to start keeping track of it myself before I take it to someone else.
So I don't know any like specific books. I would just go on Amazon and just like type in bookkeeping, for dummies. I'm sure I'm sure there's still bookkeeping for dummies books. I would just look up on Amazon. There's thousands,
Okay, but it'd have to be, you work with small businesses, it says.
Correct.
Says that. Okay. So it'd have to be a bookkeeping thing for small businesses.
I mean, it could be bookkeeping. Bookkeeping is bookkeeping. It's just the bigger your business, the more stuff there is, right? So like for a small business, you're just looking at income and expenses. If for a larger, for my larger clients, I do everything, right? We do payroll, we're sending out invoices, I'm doing customer service calls, I'm doing AP, AR, all these things that you guys aren't really, the smaller the business, the less you're doing. We're doing contractor payments and all that fun stuff that isn't really applicable to like a tutoring business per se. So yeah, I mean, any bookkeeping is going to be similar. There's just going to be things that you're going to skip out that's not going to apply to you.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean,
So
Audrey,
quick
have you looked at
question. So why? Because I want to like respect Phyllis's time.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Jasmine actually asked a quick question. Like, could you lease a car for your online business?
If it's online, what are you using the card for?
There we go. So I asked the question.
Oh no, I mean I asked that.
See it,
so like
I ask it.
Yeah, when someone asks me that question, I shoot that back because that's the answer that you have to know the answer to. It would have to logically make sense, right? So you have an online business. If it's online, how is the car applicable to your business? Now, if you have a car and you have online business and you're going to see clients in person, it's still only a percentage of a write-off, right? So, I mean, that would be my answer is, why is it for your business if it's online?
And like, what happens if they do like card magnets on, picking up supplies, business meetings? That's what she's putting out there.
Right, but that's not 100% for your business, right? So like if you go to Walmart to go pick up supplies, that's just like a one-off type situation. Car magnets and all that stuff is totally fine. Like car magnets, advertising, all those things. Like you have a car that you're regular using, you buy supplies, you want to wrap your car. I know when I first started, my whole car had a bunch of stuff on it. So if it's for that purpose, all those things are tax write-offs. It's just not the actual car itself.
Okay. All right. She got it. Thank you. All right. So
You're
we're
welcome.
gonna wrap up. One, like, what are your final tips? A lot of these things, guys, I have already print up, so I'm gonna share with you guys later on. But Phyllis, what are some of your final tips for us?
So I would say the first thing is just bookkeeping is a year-round thing, right? It's not just during tax season. We've been talking about taxes, but really by the time we get to this point, you should already know what your income is for the year. You should already know what your expenses are. You should already know if you owe or if you don't owe. You should already know what your goals are for 2024. So it is more thinking current instead of backwards. So that's the first tip. The second tip is even if you want to do it yourself and all this other stuff, there's a lot of different softwares. There's QuickBooks and all these things. I didn't really go into that much, but hire an expert, even if it's on a quarterly or every 6 months, just to look over your information. The thing about us as business owners, we're so knee deep in everything that we're not really subjective to the information. So when you're hiring someone like myself or any other person, we love your business, but we're not fully invested in it, right? So we're going to look at it on a different level than what you're going to do. So we're going to ask you those questions. Hey, you have all these different software. What are you using for counsel that? What's your goals? Like it's going to help you grow your business when you even just hire someone for an hour. And then if you do want to do bookkeeping, things that nature of yourself, same thing, have someone review your information. I think that's just really critical. Also, keep educating yourself. So even things like, watching this, hopefully you guys learn something, but keep doing it year round. I mean, even though we're busy, there's podcasts, there's webinars, there's training. Audrey found me on a SCORE webinar, which I appreciate. Thank you. And so just kind of like understand you may be passionate about tutoring, which is actually something I love doing. I was going to be a teacher at some point, and maybe I will later on. Um, but you may be passionate about what you're doing, and you should be, right? But the thing that will really close your business out is not the actual tutoring, whether you do a good job or a bad job. It's going to be not filing certain things on time. It's going to be the back office operational stuff that you really want to make sure that you're doing properly for your business.
Yes, thank you so much. And then I'm going to put the links, but tell us, where can we find you? Just in case like everyone else have like questions, or they're like, hey, can I get a consultation because I need to hire you? How can we
Sure.
find you?
So I'm everywhere, PKJ Consulting. So, so info at PKJ Consulting. You can also go on my website. There is a Calendly link. You can schedule a free 15-minute consultation with me to go over any, things that you want to even discuss. Bookkeeping, payroll, QuickBooks. I also do QuickBooks training for those who are interested in doing themselves. I'm a QuickBooks Online Elite expert, so anything QuickBooks, I am that person. So yeah, PKJ Consulting, I'm everywhere. Sorry.
Right. Thank you. Well,
Thank
PK,
you.
thank you so much for being here. I mean, I know, even though I've been doing this for 4 years, but trust me, the first couple years, I was scared to death to actually see what is actually going on with my expenses. And how we like to say, okay, if I just pretend that it's not here, everything is all good. But in order for us to advance in our business and see where we're going, as you mentioned, the goals and making sure that we're achieving the goals, we're making money, and we're able to expand whenever we want to expand, we really have to basically start feeling comfortable in uncomfortable situations. And I know working with money is like the viable part. Even though you're a math teacher or a math tutor, it doesn't matter. It's a different animal in itself. And thank you for spending the time with us to break all these things down. I would love to bring you back, especially with the whole QuickBooks, because I know a lot of people want to do QuickBooks, and I heard that the self-employed one is not the best one, so I had to get rid of that one. Yeah, learning from bad experience. But thank you so much for spending the time with us. And for those, go ahead. I'm going to give you guys the links at the replay, and you guys click on the link and just go ahead and just sign up. And she's definitely amazing. All right, guys. Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
here. And I will see you guys for the next meeting, which is happening on Thursday for us. And then the next
Thank
big
you.
corporation is next time. Take
Thank
care.
you.